Issues. This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City, Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John across from me. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Yeah, and got Joe rocking the panels. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, so we have a full house over there on the West Coast. Yeah, we got got the Jackie Molecules. How you doing, Mr. Molecules?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Me. Nastasia the Hammer Lopez. How you doing?
Good.
And my man Quinn in the upper left in Vancouver Island. What's up?
Yep, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. That sounds good. If you're listening live on Patreon, why don't you call in your questions to 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. So what do you guys have in the way of weekly garbage to talk to me about?
So what I didn't mention last week was my girlfriend and I drove across the country from Boston to L.A. to bring her car here to L.A.
What kind of car?
And just Honda Civic.
All right. What year?
2019.
Oh, okay. So not like an 80s Civic, not like, all right, like a new Civic-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Ish. But we took a very delicious route, and I would say the highlight was hitting Sean Brock's new spot in Nashville, Audrey.
Oh, so you went down and over.
Oh, yeah. We're like Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans.
Never been to Nashville. I've never been to Nashville.
Yeah, Audrey was very, very good.
Yeah?
I had been to Husk previously, but Audrey was incredible.
Why don't you
highly recommend
give us some highlights of what you had.
He did this like Anson Mills blue cornbread, which was probably the best cornbread I've ever had with lardo.
I'm assuming no sugar, right? A zero sugar situation?
No, yeah, for sure. Zero sugar. Yeah. Chicken dumplings. There was a beef tongue skewer.
Tell me about the chicken dumplings.
Just
soup with a dumpling, or like some sort of like thing. Like what was it? Like in what way dumpling? Like a totally wet dumpling, or a dry on the top dumpling that had like been ovened? Like what was the situation?
It was like it was a wet dumpling. Not like in soup though. I think there was black truffle on it.
Was it fundamentally a biscuit-style dough dumpling, or was it more of a bready bread dumpling?
Yeah.
Okay. So like plenty of fat and like a little bit of like internal texture to the dumpling. There's so many dumplings. I wish there was everyone's like, oh, you guys don't have very, many different kinds of, like we have billions of things. We just call them all dumplings. You know what I mean? And they're all different. You know what I'm saying? Gets me angry. Yeah, you know what I mean? My man John.
I also had a pop pie.
Ooh.
Was the last thing there.
Hold up. Was it made with frozen fresh pawpaws, or was it made with dried pawpaws, pawpaw preserve? You got to tell me what's going on, because I can't say that I know what a pawpaw tastes like. I almost bought a tree, but then I lost the property that I was going to put said tree on. So hook me up. Give me some pawpaw.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, did it taste like what kind of pie did it taste like? What like was it like dense? Was it like almost like like a raisin pie, or like a fig pie, or was it like soupy like an apple pie?
No, maybe like a key lime,
So it was like whisked into like a condensed milk kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Did you have the salt risen bread?
Did I have the salt risen bread? I don't think so.
You would know. Because it's got like a cheesy, weird, cheesy, strange aroma to it.
Oh, no.
You I'm not going to say, but you chumped yourself. Now you have to make salt risen bread, which is a huge pain in the behind. You know what I'm saying? It's like not.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, remember we had him on the show, and he said that they make it every day, and I was like, oh my God, what a pain in the butt, because it fails but he's like, no, we got it down. He's like, thanks for asking. It is a pain in the butt. Thank you for acknowledging. Anyway, next time you're there, which, I mean, have you been there before? Or is this the one and only time in your life you're going to go there?
Probably the one and only time I'm going to go.
Someone's going to need to mail my man Molecule some salt risen bread. I highly recommend trying salt risen bread. John, you've had salt risen bread, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you sons of guns. Weasels.
I don't even know where to get it.
You have to make it.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there is a group. I want to say West Virginia or somewhere in that area that I think still has a bakery. I don't know if they ship. If they ship, we should just get it shipped like to the West Coast, to the upper West Coast, and here we can all have some salt risen bread.
Yeah.
I feel like when we do these tastings, we should get them shipped everywhere to all 3 locales.
We have Sean Brock and his salt risen bread experts back on the show.
Just to talk about salt risen bread?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've gone over the salt risen bread story and the gangrene so many times. I don't know. We'll think about it. See if people want to hear the same story again. Oh, speaking of growing my own pawpaw tree, before we go any further on your trip, which I want to hear more about, I saw a guy when I was coming up here after I parked the bike. He had a cane, a walking stick, where clearly they had grown the tree, and when it was a sapling, they bent the sapling over and they grew the cane. They grew the tree in the shape of the cane. Because I could see the grain of it. It hadn't been wet bent. It hadn't been turned. It was the raw stick bent in the shape of a cane, the way that they used to do for like ships, for like, parts of ships. And I was like, oh my God, I got to start now. If I'm going to get a decent cane by the time I need one, because you got to plant like 10 till you get one that you like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Anyway. All right. So after you went down there, what was your next, have you done the Nashville hot chicken? Because I've never had it in Nashville. John, you did it, right?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I've done it before.
You enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it?
It's good. I mean, John, where did you go? I did Prince's and Hattie B's before. Not on this trip, but yeah.
Prince's, yeah.
It's fine.
Nah. All right. You just made a bunch of enemies. You just made a huge number of enemies. I've never had it.
It's good. It's just, I feel like you can weirdly get good Nashville style hot chicken outside of Nashville. It's not the kind of thing I feel like I have to have when I'm in Nashville, weirdly.
That's true.
And now you just doubled your enemies. Yeah. All right. What else do you have?
Then we hit Memphis quickly and then down to New Orleans, which of course is always delicious. My first Parkways, though. That was my first Parkway po' boy, which was very good, obviously.
Yeah? You like that bread?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then through Houston, San Antonio.
Ooh, Houston.
Albuquerque, Vegas, and L.A. And I will say, anytime I'm in Vegas, I make sure to go to the Chengdu Taste there, which is, my jam.
Again, never been to Vegas. Been to San Antonio recently.
You've never been to Vegas?
No. Nope.
Wow.
No. It's weird, right? Wiley loves Vegas. Yeah. Wiley, I don't think I had him tell. Did I have him tell the story when he was on the air?
I haven't been to Vegas either.
Really? Yeah. Nope. You and me both, man. I figure I get good food everywhere. I don't like to gamble. We have shows in New York, not the same kind of show, maybe. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of Holtons and desert.
It's different.
Yeah, I like the desert. I'm going to go to Phoenix again in like a couple of weeks. If you want some serious desert, Phoenix is awesome. Like outside of Phoenix, you know what I mean, for desert. But never been to Vegas. Wiley opened Jean Georges restaurant at a hotel in Vegas.
Oh, that's right.
And lived there for 6 months, and was on the company tab, right? But somehow it didn't get told right. So he had a fridge, which is a daily charge at the hotel, like every day for 6 months. Cause the first thing he did was like, give me a fridge. And so he put the fridge in there. And then he said, when he went down to check out, when he went home, they hit print on his bill. And it was one of those old like dot matrix. And he said it was printing for like a half hour, 45 minutes, just printing his 6 months of hotel bill from when he opened that. He loves a hotel though. He was psyched. Yeah. I would not like that. I do not want to live in a hotel for 6 months. I don't think. You guys?
I think I could do it.
Yeah? Really?
For 6 months, I think so.
I don't know.
It gets expensive, like to eat and just live. You really miss cooking. I've stayed in hotels for a long time with work, and you think it's great, and then after about week 2.5, you're like, I want to go home and cook.
I noticed something in San Antonio about that. Get this. See whether you get this slight dig that there's. I'm trying to see if this is an undercurrent or if it was just 2 people in a row. San Antonio said. I asked them what restaurants were good in San Antonio, and here's what they said. Both of them not related to each other. Separate drives. I don't eat fast food. I was like, I did not say fast food. So like, at least in San Antonio, there's some undercurrent that if you're going out to a restaurant, you're doing some sort of shortcut or eating fast food. I was like, who said fast food? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so interesting. But I do, yeah, I don't eat out enough. I know, John, I need to come to your restaurant more. Sure. Speaking of which, got any good new menu items?
The cheese croquettes, I think, are finally done, which took annoyingly way longer than they should have.
How many times you burn your mouth on those suckers?
Not that much. It was more just like getting the consistency of the batter right. It has to be a lot stiffer than what feels natural. So it's a Mornay basically, but it's a really, really stiff Mornay.
When someone hands me a croquette and I bite into it right away and the entire inside of it sticks to the roof of my mouth, I'm like, why, dude? And they're like, why'd you eat it so fast? I'm like, you served it to me, Jurgis. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell?
No, that's on you, man. I'm not going to.
It's not on me.
What? So the croquette should just.
I think it's an inherently bad. It's not my. No. You know what? No, crap.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't like doing that either, but, you know, it comes with the territory if that's what you're ordering.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So I made something this week. So if you remember Chef J.J. Johnson, what was the rice book that I lent you and it never came back? Yeah. It's from the field. It's not all field trip stuff. It's anyway. So I don't know if you remember when he was on the show, we were talking about John, D-J-O-N.
Simple Art of Rice.
Simple Art of Rice. D-J-O-N, which is a Haitian mushroom, like wild mushroom, that in Haiti is used in cooking for kind of special events. And when I read it in the book and when I talked to him about it, I was like, oh my God, I gotta get some John mushrooms. And so like I got some at Kalustyan's and then they were burning a hole in my pantry for the longest time because I needed some sort of excuse to do it. But I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a bunch of rice. So I made it, and I highly recommend. Everyone loved the John. I can't really put my finger on what the flavor of the John is, but everyone liked it. So I'll give you what I did. First of all, here's what don't do, right? So I made it in a rice cooker, you know, because I've mentioned on the show many times that like I can't be bothered and I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. And so like I'm going to use a rice cooker. That's all there is to it. And I also believe, you know, if you remember, I told Chef JJ, I was like, he's like, you just got to do the thing with your finger with the, I was like, nope. And he's like, why? But it always works. Don't care. It doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? So so the secret with the mushrooms is, and the secret with all mushrooms, and by the way, I don't know whether I talked about this on air, but I ran a whole bunch of tests a year or two ago, which I don't think I talked about. Soaking mushrooms. The test was on shiitakes, right? But I was soaking shiitakes at different temperatures to see whether or not it actually tasted appreciably better if you did cold water soak before you heated it. And unfortunately, the answer is yes. So it really doesn't taste as good to rehydrate a mushroom in hot water or boiling water, anything really above 60 Celsius. That's when mushrooms start undergoing their cooked transition from being uncooked to cooked. That's when that happens. So yeah, so sorry, folks. Take your time and, you know, soak your mushrooms right. I didn't bother vacuuming it, but I soaked the John mushrooms for a long time. I put them into a nut milk bag, an 80 micron nut milk bag. And then after I soaked them, I brought it up to the boil and, you know, put on kitchen gloves. Not kitchen gloves like, how do I describe this? Not like I don't want you to get poisoned gloves, but like scrubbing gloves. Like rubber.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Dishwashing gloves. Yeah. You should always keep a pair of not filthy dishwashing gloves around because it's just enough insulation so that if you're already got cook's hands that can touch hot things, you still can't really grab boiling liquids. Like you're not that good yet, probably. You shouldn't be. You should really hope you're not that good. But a good pair of like just like scrub gloves, you know what I mean? First of all, they're grippy, which is nice when it's wet. But then you can take that sack, that nut milk sack, that hot nut sack, and you can squeeze it real hard for at least 10 seconds before your hand starts burning. And so that's what I did. So I squeezed it out, got all of the John juice out. And then, so you add that to the rice. And then I made a blend of parsley, fresh parsley, cilantro, clove, pepper, garlic, and I didn't use shallots because I don't do that. I've mentioned that a bunch of times. Onion, but blended all that up with a little bit of the John stock back in the rice, brought it up, cooked it. The mistake I made is I held back on the salt, right? Oh, I didn't hydrate it in water. I hydrated it in veg stock. I was cooking for vegetarians, but I did it in veg stock. If I was going to do it for myself, I would do it in chicken stock. But if I'm doing it for vegetarians, you can't do it in chicken stock. So, anyways, so the mistake I made was, as it was getting close to being done, there wasn't that much liquid left. I tasted it. I was like, oh, it's low on salt. And I wanted it to be eaten kind of on its own. So I added some salt, but then the stirring of it at that point, I broke a bunch of the rice grains. But they didn't get gummy and it didn't get sticky. Like they stayed, it was almost like the rice had been miniaturized. So all of the grains stayed separate, but they were kind of broken in half. And people were like, how do you do that? I'm like, I'm really good at what I do. And I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to be that way. But anyway, it was good.
Nice.
Yeah. Made some, I made like my standard dried cod gloop to go on top of it, which is good. My standard dried cod gloop is just you put onions in a pan and you walk away for 1 billion years with butter, right? And then you super low. Then you throw in red and green bell pepper and you let that go for 1 billion years until it cuts down. Then you take the cheap, like the pollock pollock, really cheap stuff, and then you put it in a big pot of cold water. You bring it up once, drain it, bring it up, fill it, bring it up again, then chop it fine, mix it in, and then smash boiled yams. Not sweet potatoes, yams, white, not sweet, name to be more accurate, on top of the rice. Anyway, it was good. That was my cooking adventure for the week. What about anyone else? Got some cooking crap they want to talk about? It being cooking issues. All right, what do you got?
Something.
What do you
got? The day after last week's show, we were completely snowed in. So we made a big old pot of ragu Genovese, which turned out pretty good.
And how do the Genovese folks take their ragu?
Okay, it's basically a little bit of carrot, a little bit of celery, pieces of beef, not browned, and then just a giant pile of, sliced onion.
I like that.
And then you cook it for as long as you can.
This makes
so you get, a very subtle, passive sort of caramelization, but, it's relatively blonde, I would say.
So how present is the carrot in that?
Again, it depends.
Well, I mean, you made it just now. How present was the carrot?
Again, you get the occasional bit. I think we could have actually chopped it a little finer.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, it's a big pot of sweet onions with little morsels of stewed fatty beef.
So you're at 2/3 of a mirepoix, no celery, huh?
Oh, no, there was celery, didn't we?
I don't know. I don't remember. I would have clocked it. I thought maybe. Yeah.
Very little carrot, very little celery, and then just a French onion amount of onions.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I won't say I overuse it because I don't think that's possible, but I go through a lot of onion. My standard method to do anything is just chop a whole bunch of onions and get them going while you're doing the rest of the stuff. That's basically how I start everything, especially if you're pressure cooking. I do 2 or 3 times the normal human amount of onion. But, yeah. Do you know what's weird? I was thinking about this the other day with mirepoix is that some people are very sensitive to too much carrot in a mirepoix, and some people are very sensitive to too much celery. A lot of people are sensitive to too much celery. Not that many people sensitive to too much onion, unless they're allergic to alliums, in which case they're incredibly sensitive. So if you're sensitive to onions in general, you're highly, highly sensitive to onions in a mirepoix. But I mean, just in terms of general taste aesthetics for most people, it's weird how it's always the carrot and the celery. Hard to balance. I would say that I always add more carrot than celery. I think. I just do it by eye.
If we're doing a standard recipe, we're usually pretty even in terms of it's usually 2 part onion, 1 part the rest,
One of each, you mean? Or half-half? 2 half-half or 2 1-1?
No.
I use way more onion then. I use way more onion. Anyway.
Well, it depends.
I mean, it should depend, but for me,
Something good
it does not.
With the leftover Genovese is I like just took a glob of it because it turned into like kind of a goop, and then I refried on one side, and it made like a melt with the Velveeta. It was quite good.
I like Velveeta. Someone was hating on Velveeta recently. What's to hate? Velveeta tastes good. Kind of a goop.
Sure does.
Yeah, Velveeta good. Nastasia, you don't hate Velveeta, right? Who was it that we were talking to who doesn't like Velveeta? You know who it was?
Yeah.
I think it was Chef Josh said something on one of his internet things I was looking for last week's thing. Said doesn't like Velveeta. I'm like, I don't know, man. It is a well-made.
No, he likes sodium citrate. I don't think that would be him.
There's difference between liking sodium citrate and liking Velveeta, my man. Velveeta is you know what I'm saying? It's like he likes using sodium citrate to make his own cheese melting things. And I've said to a bunch of people, I like Velveeta.
Do that too.
Okay.
I do that too. I
think it's like, you know who makes really good meltable cheese blends? The Kraft Corporation. You know what I mean? It's like, I think, look, some things like, if you're like, what I really want is the flavor of Gruyere in a sauce, you can make it, and sure, it's easy to do, like add, which is delicious, right? Add like citrate to it. But a lot of times I just want Velveeta. You know what I'm saying? That's just me though. That's just me. It's one of those things with the citrate that like, sure, I know how to do it. I've taught people how to do it. And then I just don't do it. It's like making the alginate balls. Like, I know how to do it. I've taught people how to do it. I don't do it. I don't care about it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that I don't care about it. I don't care about it from my own personal practice. See what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when I'm redoing the re-up for the book, I'm literally writing, I was like, I'm not writing how to do this. Plenty of people do it. I know how to do it, but I don't do it for myself. So I'm not going to talk about it here. And my wife's like, that's really long-winded. I'm like, yeah, I know. You know what I mean? So then she takes it out. So I don't know what it's going to look like eventually. Hey, hear this, Quinn? You know what that is? That's Warren Johnson sent me some Hawkins cheesies, or as he calls them, Canadian packing peanuts. So if you want to open up away from the microphone, John, and he also sent us some of his liquor from Above Average Drinks. We have a coriander aguardiente. This is bottle number 42 out of 82, and it's clocking in at 48% alcohol. And I figure we can, Joe, you want to try this or no? The aguardiente? The coriander aguardiente? I'm sure my man John's going to have some. Here to you. So this is clocking hot, folks. It's clocking at 48, and I don't really know anything about this, so let's just try it. Here's to Warren, long time listener. Yeah, I like the nose. Smells sweet. Yeah, got coriander. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah. Want to make some comment? It almost smells like a Christmas pastry.
Yeah.
You get that? Almost like a Swedish, smells like someone cooked like a semla, like almost like there's cardamom in it, even though there's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You smell that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that pastry smell. You want to smell it, Joe?
I smell it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Coriander is such a pain in the butt because it can be so many things. It can be high in citrus. It can be. We're back at the French Culinary Institute. Nastasia, you remember this? At the French Culinary Institute, we would run back in there whenever they left the storeroom so that they were unguarded. We would run back in there and open every single. So at the French Culinary, we used to get these giant things of spices, like, the industrial, not industrial, but like, big spices. So Nastasia and I would go back there and just open every single one, rip off the lids and be like, nope. Nope. And then we would put it in the maybe pile. Remember this, Stas? And then we would keep smelling the maybe pile, and then we would steal the best one and leave everyone else with the garbage. Do you remember that?
I don't think that was me.
Yeah. Remember we used to distill, we would distill constantly. One of the things we would distill was the caraway, and the other was we would add some coriander to it. I don't know. You don't remember this? You blocked it out. So the next thing we have from Warren is a coriander liqueur. This is at 30 ABV. I'm assuming it's sweeter. It's got some brown to it, so I don't know what the brown's from. We'll see what's going on here. You want to try the liqueur? Yeah, he wants to try the liqueur. All right.
Here, just pour me in the...
Pour you in this guy? All right. So what do you think? What do you think? And then you can read this stuff. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks. We always appreciate getting sound. Good, huh?
Yeah.
It's not like highly. It's like light. Like it's not like highly herbalized. It's not bitter.
Yeah. No. It's really nice. Well spiced.
Should I tell you guys what I've been doing at home?
Sure.
In terms of liqueurs, should I mention it? Okay. So, how many times on air have I mentioned how much I love glycerin? Like a lot. Like a lot. A lot. Well, so I have a new thing I've been doing. You ready for it? Glassed. Have I mentioned Glassed yet? No? All right. So I really like taking an Amaro and turning it into kind of like a spritz situation. But you want to add, because they're often very bitter, you want to add a lot of kind of seltzer water to it. And then it gets like a really low, like a session drink. So like, if you use Chinar, you're talking about like 4% alcohol. If you're using like something like a little higher, like it can be like, 6% alcohol. But I'm talking like a 2-ounce pour of Amaro, adding like 150 to 160 mils of seltzer water, right? So like a lot, so in order to have that be okay, one, you need to add some acid, right? Because I don't think it works well without acid, but you also need to add something to body it back up. So glycerin's the answer. So I've been making a champagne acid glycerin mix that is 60% glycerin, right? And 40% water at 6% acidity, doing the champagne acid base, which is, I use liquid lactic acid now and tartaric acid. So I can give the recipe. I calculated the density of glycerin, and I did all the calculations, but maybe on the Patreon I can put out the recipe for it. And a half ounce of Glassed with like 2 ounces of base like Amaro. Top that, stir it, mix it up. Top that with seltzer. Like you could top it pretty high, twist an orange, couple ice cubes, you're off to the races. So that's my standard low alc that we have at the house now. And something like Chinar that has a lot of body and it's very low in alcohol, like 13.5% low, right? If you want to go even lower, I have this drink. I haven't come up with a new name for it yet, but like it's 2% alcohol, right? But so what you do with that is it's 1.25 ounces of Chinar, half ounce of Glassed, and then I make a celery seed syrup, which is just as simple as it sounds. I also have the recipe. I can put it on the Patreon, but you dump a bunch of celery seed. If you grew up in New York, Dr. Brown's Celery Soda, right? Anyone knows Dr. Brown's Celery Soda. It's hard to get, but it's like, to me, how everyone likes whatever their local soda is? To me, that's God's soda. And they used to make a diet version, but it's not celery, it's celery seed. So just celery seed and water and sugar, you strain that out. So half ounce of celery seed syrup, 1.25 ounces of Chinar, half ounce Glassed, fill that up with seltzer, orange twist, 2% alcohol. You're good. Pounder. It's a pounder. You know what I mean? Pound that thing. And one of them is like, less than a quarter of a cocktail. So it's like a fifth of it's crazy. It's like 5 or 6 of them is like a beer. It's nuts. Oh, wow. You know what I mean? Yeah. And by then you're full of liquid because they're also tall drinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway. All right. You guys tried the cheesies yet? Joe, you've had cheesies before, right? We were theorizing last night because I ate a package. Is it because it's so cold in Canada you guys need to jack the salt so much? Is it like almost the same as being in an airplane?
I think it's just because it's a sharper cheddar that they dehydrate. You know what I mean?
No, but they're adding salt to it, my man. There's clear. It's not just.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think the salt content of the actual cheese powder is also higher.
That's possible, but, if you're making something with a higher salt cheese powder, you know what you do to the rest of the salt? You lower it. You know what I'm saying?
No, you leave it alone. You let it ride.
All right, fine. That's clearly what they do. But we were just saying it's like, it's like maybe like everyone has their like Canada Goose on up there and like they can't hear anything because they got that helmet on, that big hood. And so they need something so crunchy that like they can feel it through like all of that crazy weather. And, and they need just like loads of salt. They're really good though. I got to say, all love to the Frito-Lay Corporation, but the Hawkins Cheesy is a in smaller quantities. It comes in a smaller quantity, which I also appreciate. 36 grams. It's the dumbest number in the world. 36 grams. What the hell is this? Do they actually like drop thing and weigh it and then type 36 grams? Who chooses 36 grams as the package size? It makes no sense.
You can You can get bigger packages.
I know, but like, why ever make that size? It's the dumbest. It's like, I don't even understand it. And
maybe it fits in a particular pocket.
Oh yeah, of the Canada Goose.
Sure, the Canada Goose. I love how the orange kind of gives that like. There's a nice hue on the plastic.
Oh yeah, it's so hardcore. It's a good point, Joe. I'm glad you brought this up. Plastics have a tendency to scalp. Like in other words, like things absorb into the plastic, like flavors and aromas, and sometimes it can go the other way. Which is why I always, if you smell your plastic wrap and it smells bad, don't buy that. Only buy polyethylene, not the PVC plastic wrap, unless they've really off-gassed it. But this sucker, I'm assuming they didn't start with. In fact, I can know they didn't because I can see the top of the bag. I don't think they overprinted yellow on this. I think that's just scalped off of the cheese powder, which means that's hardcore cheese powder action. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it though. John, what does grignotis mean?
A little like snack, corn-based snack.
It looks like something you get like at the PIL concession stand at the baseball, as a kid.
Oh yeah, when you were a kid, the mini stuff. Yeah, it's the best. Back when you used to be happy with like a little thing, you know what I mean? Remember how remember Cracker Jack when you were a kid getting a Cracker Jack?
Oh, the best.
Oh, jeez. And then how many years did it take before you're like, this doesn't have enough goop on it and this prize sucks? It took me a long time.
And there's never enough nuts.
Never enough nuts. You're looking for that one peanut. And also, I know I've said this before, why Spanish peanut hegemony? The Spanish peanut is not the best peanut. Like, not even close to the best peanut. I don't even think it's the second best peanut. Like, why does everyone go ape over why do you want those little skins flying off? Like, how many times have you, me more than I should, I guess, taken a handful of Spanish peanuts, stick them in your mouth, accidentally breathe a little bit, and one of those skins goes right down your throat. Like,
start coughing everywhere.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's like, when someone hands you a dessert and they just put the powdered sugar on and they didn't give it time to set. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So you're like,
tiramisu.
Oh, anything like especially things that are dry. So it takes forever for that powdered sugar to kind of settle down, like on the outside of like a choux pastry or some crap, and they hand it to you, and you just one errant inhale and you're like hacking and wheezing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bad.
Upcoming guests on February 13th, we have Michael Fabro and Saif Khawaja, who I don't know Saif, but I know Michael, obviously. He used to be at what's it called? Ora King Salmon, which was, as we said back in the day, our favorite fish. Interesting thing about Ora King, did you hear about this? They ran out of stock. So they sold off all of their stock that was the right size, and they were kind of missing a generation. So they paused for a little bit. This is what I was told. I was talking to the folks at AquaBest because Booker, obviously, as a salmon aficionado, was like, Dad, something happened with Ora King. They stopped making Ora King. I'm like, wow, I don't know, man. And so then I talked to the people at AquaBest, which is where he gets his Ikura, and went, I'll get this, for his birthday, which was just a couple of weeks ago. My sister-in-law, Miley, who's been on the show, gives him a $120 gift certificate to Russ and Daughters. So he goes to Russ and Daughters and just hands them the gift certificate and just says, French trout roe. and they scoop out this giant bucket of French trout roe. Yeah. So when I used to get it for him, I was like, no way I'm paying for this crap. So they used to use what they call a Bissell cup, this little cup. And I would say this, enunciate very clearly, 1/10 of 1 pound of French trout roe, please. You know what I mean? Like, so that they would know I meant a teeny bit because they didn't want to pay for it. You know what I mean? Because he would just go and suck it up anyway. So he got 1.1 pounds, 1.1 pounds in like a deli. And he comes home and he just starts going, boom, 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 eating it. And the next morning it was gone. So like, as we're going to bed that night, Jen says to him, you should do something, like get some bagels, not just the trout roe. Like, nobody has consumed that much trout roe ever. Like, it's never happened. We don't know what it does to your body to consume that much salt. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like gone, just gone, hosed. I was like, oh my God. And he wasn't like, I had too much, I don't want any more. He's like the utility monster with that stuff. It's nuts. I mean, it's like, God bless him. I can't figure out what he wants to do for a living where he can afford to live the lifestyle he wants. You know what I mean? He would rather not buy toilet paper and have French trout roe, but still, it's an expensive habit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know? Anyway. So Michael
Who
Fabro.
among us can't relate, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, the thing is like, he just likes certain weird luxury goods. It's bizarre. But we can't afford to get it. I don't know what he's going to do. He needs to get it. He needs to figure out something that people want to pay him for. You know what I mean?
He needs to work for a company that makes trout roe.
Well, they used to joke at Russ and Daughters. They're like, hey, you could get a job here someday. He's like, ha. And then, but he probably could, but he'd probably get fired instantly because he would dip into that. He would. Yeah, getting high off there. Getting high off that supply. Yeah, like I used to do with the bacon at Domino's, which was a nightmare. I told you that story.
No.
I've never told you that story?
I don't think so.
Come on.
I don't think so.
Oh, my God. Okay, real quick. So... Stas knows this story. So I was working as a delivery person at Domino's when I was in college. I was driving my mom's Honda Accord, 84 Honda Accord with MD plates on it. So I could speed. Yeah, I could speed like a mother because I had MD plates. Cops would never pull me over. This is why I never put the Domino's sign on the top of my car. But on the other hand, they wouldn't give you shift pizzas. They had no food, and they also, like, I worked a crappy shift, and if people weren't ordering, like, you were getting $4 an hour, no tips because no one's ordering, right? And they wouldn't let us eat anything. So I used to just start eating the pepperoni. Now the pepperoni at Domino's Pizza comes in like a third container. Like most of the other things are in 6 containers, right? So this is in a 6-inch deep, like, third pan, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to notice that I'm eating all of this pepperoni because I could eat, you know what I'm saying? So I started pounding this pepperoni, and then I'm like, I better move. So I moved from the pepperoni to the bacon, and I ate because very few people ordered the bacon on the pizza. So I ate almost the entire 6-pan of bacon. And I was like, this stuff sucks. This is the worst. And someone was like, yo, that's raw. I was like, oh, I just thought it was bad, but I ate it anyway. Cause whatever, college kid.
Amazing.
Yeah. Dumb. So Dax loves that story. Anyway, back to Michael Fabro. So Michael Fabro is no longer at, Ora King Salmon. He has his own, I believe it's Coho farm that he is now the CEO of.
Local Coho.
Say it again.
The company.
What?
Local Coho.
Well, it's only local if you live in upstate New York. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's farming coho, and what's interesting is that he is, as far as he knows or I know, the first person to work on ikejime slaughtering techniques for farmed coho salmon at least in the United States, and maybe anywhere. So we'll be talking about that, and hopefully he'll bring some of his product. Maybe I'll bring Booker, although I think he'll be in school at that point, so I can't. That'd be amazing. What if you bring Booker? How do you like it, Booker? Not as much, or delicious. He has 2 words: great or not as much. How do you like it? Great. How do you like it? Not as much. Those are the 2 things he says. Not as much. All right. Justin Sherrill writes in, question, I picked up some Ultrasperse M on the Impulse. What's it good for? By the way, did you know that the people who used to be National Starch, the name just went out of my head, they bought TIC gums. So that's all one company. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
We got to get good with those guys. Get Janet Carver on. Hey, we should get Janet Carver on.
Yeah.
She used to run all of the chef outreach stuff for National Starch, which now is Ingredion. And then Ingredion bought TIC Gums, who makes a lot of the good premixes and stuff. Should be an interesting guest.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. See what I can do.
I picked up some they make Ultrasperse, by the way. Okay. I picked up some Ultrasperse M on Impulse. What's it good for? I remember it being mentioned on the show, but I don't have a specific use case to work from or what percentages to use. Would it work for breaking up cocoa powder in a drink? No. Yes, but no. So Ultrasperse, there's all the Ultras. You either got your Ultra Tex and you got your Ultrasperse. I would highly recommend that home folk only get Sperse. So the difference is both of them are, and there's different kinds, you really don't need to worry about it, are prehydrated starches, right? So what that means is that it's kind of like Wondra flour. They've already been cooked. So you can stir them in and you don't need to bring a product back up to the boil to get it to thicken, right? It'll thicken at room temperature or any temperature in between. The difference between the Sperse line and the Tex line is the Sperse is what's called agglomerated. And what agglomeration does, if you look at it under a microscope, it looks very kind of rough. And so it doesn't stick together. So you can take, without using a blender, and you can stir sperse things in with a spoon, and you're not going to get clumps and lumps. Whereas Ultra Tex, you're more likely to get clumps and lumps. And what's the difference between all the different Ultra Spurses? I don't really know, and I don't really think it makes a difference. I'll tell you, maybe it does for allergies and stuff like this. But I used it just the other day. The reason I wouldn't use it in a cocoa drink is it's going to thicken your cocoa drink. So if what you want is a really thick cocoa drink, then sure, you could use Spurs. I was cooking beans. I was cooking field peas, cow peas rather, not black-eyed peas, cow peas, and smaller, different. And I had a little bit too much liquid left at the end. So it was a little soupier than I wanted, but I didn't want to do the old school of like taking a big scoop out, blending up a section of the beans and putting it back in. I wanted to keep the beans intact. So I just spooned a little bit of Ultra Spurse in, stirred it, thickened right up, in about 10, 15 seconds. You wait 5 minutes or so for it to really kind of stabilize, and out it goes. And so like that's, a use case right there. It's like a really good, if you don't want, so xanthan, sometimes it's easy to kind of go over the top with it. Like Ultra Spurse, because it is a starch, it acts more like a starch. So, if you hate making a cornstarch slurry and stirring it in at the last minute, I don't know anyone who loves it. Plus, then you have to bring it back up almost to the boil. Do you love doing the cornstarch slurry and then praying that you don't get those little fish eyes in it?
No.
You hate it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Spurse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason that they make Tex, I think, is because it's a lot cheaper. But in terms of the use on our basis, it's not that much cheaper. Your time is more expensive. All right. From L Butts, there seems to be a new Instagram TikTok fad going around, much akin to the fiasco of Parmigiano Reggiano in an espresso martini. Well, what do you think about it, L? Do you really like I'm kidding. Did you catch that fad, Parmigiano espresso martini? Did you catch that? Anyone?
I saw videos about it.
Why?
I saw videos about it.
Why do you watch them on purpose or because of this question?
Like, someone I follow tried it.
And what'd they say?
It was terrible.
Yeah, sounds right. The new trend is using soy sauce in bourbon/rye cocktails. Have any of you guys seen this trend? No?
I haven't seen that, but to me it sounds decent.
All right. Well, let me see. Just tried making a Sazerac with one. First of all, you folks know I'll drink a Sazerac. A Sazerac's a fine drink, but as it contains Peychaud's bitters, I would prefer if you just made it with cough syrup. And that's what we used to do at the bar. If friends and family came, I would pull Robitussin up from underneath the bar and make a Sazerac with Robitussin and do a side-by-side, like a Robosac and freaking Sazerac. They taste identical if you get the red. You know what I mean? Just try making a Sazerac, and honestly say that the last remnants of my Rittenhouse rye, and I know it's not a special whiskey in the States, but in Australia, with our exchange rates on top of import fees, and then throw in industry markups and whatnot, it tends to border on the special side of spirits. It was not worth wasting the Rittenhouse on the soy sauce. Yet I don't know if I might have been heavy-handed with it. Well, if you added any at all, you were heavy-handed with it, in my opinion. Same. Interested to hear whether it's another fad that will die out in a couple of days or hold some actual ground. Thanks. I said, listen, I'm sure there is a use for soy sauce in certain bourbon-based cocktails, certain cocktails in general. Jack Schramm had a fish sauce-based cocktail that was really good with a couple of dashes of fish sauce in it, but it's very cocktail specific. This is why people are like, in other words, I don't think it's like salt. Right, where salt makes a lot of drinks taste better, especially drinks with fruit or citrus, right? I don't actually think MSG makes a lot of all drinks taste better. I think it makes some drinks taste better and then makes other drinks taste like this. Like brothy kind of, I don't know that I want umami in all of my drinks. You know what I mean? And I would say soy falls into that category. So are there drinks that would be delicious with soy? I am sure there are. Do I want soy in my Sazerac? Probably I don't. I think, there's what?
I feel like anything with caramel or coffee or chocolate notes, you could use drops of soy sauce.
I mean, could do, but do you put soy sauce in your coffee?
I mean, I play around with soy sauce and
okay.
Salted caramel application.
That's a salted caramel. That's fine. That's a dessert application, like a culinary thing. I think there's a fundamental difference between cooking something which is an agglomeration of a bunch of different flavors, like mole, right? And making a cocktail, which is a whole different thing.
I think soy sauce, especially really nice soy sauce, works with chocolate.
Okay.
I think anything with chocolate milk. It would be good. Or like I've got
don't put it in my hot chocolate.
Like
you can make me a chocolate thing with it. You can make me a chocolate thing with it. Please don't put it in my chocolate bar. Don't put it in my coffee. If I'm having my morning espresso, don't go with soy sauce into my espresso. Don't do that. You know what I mean? But what were you saying? Yeah. What was the one you were saying you were just doing?
Again, like if you combined Nocino, like if you had a drink with Nocino, which is like the black walnut liqueur.
I'm familiar, yes.
And then you added a little soy sauce on top of that, like a few drops.
Yeah.
I think that would have worked.
Look, okay, look, it's possible that something would work. Here's the other thing, right? Let me tell you a little story. When I first learned to force carbonate with, not with an EC, right, which is expensive, but when I first got the carbonator caps, this was in like 2005 or 4 or something like that, I would carbonate all the wines. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Every white wine, everything. I would even like make some Lambrusco-y things, right? I would just carbonate everything. I was like, this is fantastic. I love it. And then I said, you know what I need to do? I need to taste this side by side with the original. I was like, oh, the original's better. I was like, oh, I have hurt this product. It still tastes good, but I have damaged the product. And for what reason, right? And I would guess that soy sauce, you can make something with a lot of things in cocktails with soy sauce that taste okay, but I would bet that you've actually done a little bit of damage. It's still good, but it's not maybe better. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I think there's a huge impulse when you are trying to ideate and come up with new ideas, especially if it's like your goal to come up with new ideas, that as soon as you have a new idea, you just start doing it. And if it tastes okay, you think it's great. And then you never go back and really assess whether what you're doing is in fact better or not. You know what I mean? I think it's a huge problem. I have this problem. I think we all have this problem. And this is why you should always just test. The other thing is I was talking to someone the other day and they went through this huge process of bull crap that they were doing for techniques to make something. And I didn't want to say this, but in my head, I'm thinking half of the stuff that you're telling me has no impact on the drink. Like half of the stuff you're telling me has no, and by the way, I'm being generous. More than half of what they were saying had no impact on the drink. But I'm not going to be like, cause you're out at an event. You can't be like, no, do this side by side and then tell me. You know what I mean? Anyway, we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Dave? It's Josh from Norfolk.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, aren't you doing something with Campari Academy on milk washing?
I am. I'll be up there in a couple weeks.
Oh, nice. And an interesting thing, which I did not cover because I didn't think to cover it, but I've heard people talk about, is alternative milks in milk washing. So before I run my own test, which I'm going to have to do, what's your favorite alternative milk to milk wash? And does it have the same kind of flavor altering effects as milk from a cow?
Not as intense with the flavor altering effects. I found success with pretty much everything except for oat milk, which I think they just put so many gosh darn things in there to make it like homogeneous that it then makes it difficult to break again.
Because I've heard Oatly will break. Did you try Oatly or a different one?
I didn't use Oatly. I took whatever we had at the bar, which was not a decision that I made because I wasn't particularly interested in making that decision. Right. But yeah, I haven't tried Oatly. I'll have to give it a shot. But I made a bunch of things work. I actually did one. I did a Tres Leches milk punch that I made to break with all three milks. So yeah, the alternatives work pretty well.
Wait, so like goat, like which 3 milks did you do?
It was, man, I'll have to remember. It was definitely sweetened condensed milk and whole milk and something else.
Did it break hard?
It broke real hard, yeah. When I do them, like I do them real fine anyway. And then like for home batches, I just put them through like a reusable percolating coffee filter.
Yeah.
And everything I did with alternative milks broke big enough that was enough to strain it.
So like almond?
Almond, no problem, yeah.
Soy breaks. In other words, like, here's a question for you that I haven't tried with something like soy. What if you, instead of breaking it with acid, what if you broke it with like Epsom salt, like you would for tofu? You think it would work?
Oh, I know a lot of things that aren't acid break. That's actually a big part of what I'm going to talk about is breaking with like tannic and astringent things. So we're doing one where it's just the breaking agent is just really oversteeping the hell out of whiskey with coffee.
Yeah, coffee is instant break. The only problem I have with coffee with no acid is the curd is so fine, it's so tiny. So do you have a way to make the curd not be so tiny? Like the nice thing about acid break is it's real fluffy. You know what I mean? Whereas like coffee, like a coffee break is like tiny pellets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, then I just adjust the method I'm using for straining for that. Do you find any negative results on the back end?
I mean,
like for having a smaller curd?
I'm using a centrifuge, so if like, you know, I gotta go back and test, like, you know, just using like an 80 mesh back. Anyway, you want to push this before you ask whatever question you're going to ask or say what you're going to say. You want to push the class so that people can go look for it?
Yeah. Yeah, so we added a second day, which should go live today, but I'll be teaching a class on milk punch and milk washing at the Campari Academy in the Grace Building Tuesday, February 13th and Wednesday the 14th. So if your Valentine's Day plans include talking about homogeneous protein emulsions, then, you know, come hang.
And why shouldn't they? And why shouldn't they involve that? Nothing's more romantic, right? And by the way,
than breaking milk.
Why do they keep calling that building the Grace Building? W.R. Grace is one of the most evil companies. Like they haven't met a village that they can't poison. Like, why is it that they still call that building the Grace Building? Isn't that weird? It's not like Grace, like, you know, Grace Church or Grace, like, you know, God's good graces. It's W.R. Grace. Evil mega overlords. You know what I mean?
I'm happy to rebrand it to the Campari Building with other stuff in it.
Yeah, a little long. You need to tighten that up. Workshop it, tighten it up. Get it back to me. Yeah. So for those of you also that have never been to the Campari Academy, go check it out up there on the 19th floor. They got a nice little space. All right. So what was your question?
So I'm making a soup on this nice, cool Virginia afternoon, and I'm going to use leeks. And I know your stance on leeks and not wanting to deal with the dirt. What I've always done is cut them first and then washed them. And I'm wondering, is there a reason that this makes me a low quality individual? Is this like monstrous behavior, or
it depends on what you mean by cut? The classic thing is to slice it almost down to the root in half, break it open so the root stays intact, and then like fudge it around and then slice it into rings. You mean you slice it in rings, put it in the spinner, and then go? That's probably the smartest way to do it.
That's what I do too. Yeah,
it's smart. Smart. I mean, that's the way I do. You know, cilantro, and that's the way I do parsley. It's the way I do everything. So I just never thought to do it with leeks because I had been taught the old idiot way, you know, because if you don't ring it, you can't do it that way. You can't do the classic leek clean technique that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God bless the salad spinner. God bless the colander. You know what I'm saying? How many rinses do you need on the rings to get them clear? Because what I hate about leeks is also like some celery, but celery is not as much of a pain in the butt because you're not doing that much of it, is the persistent dirt on the bottom of the leek. You know what I'm saying? Do you have to sit there and scrub a lub? You know what the best way to clean leeks is, by the way? Have someone else do it. It's for sure the best way. It's for sure the best. It's like peeling shrimp. The best shrimp peeler is somebody else. But no, that's a good, it's good technique. I mean, you know what? I'm grown now. I'm 52 years old. Maybe I'll go back to leeks. I'll do it your way. I appreciate the impetus. I can stop stop my hate talk. But still,
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't sinning by doing it.
No, I mean, look, I don't think anyone's going to get mad at that. I mean, theoretically, you're leaching a little bit. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, honestly, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, was that we just wanted to, I think you're doing fine. And go check out your Josh's class at the Campari Academy. Maybe we'll put something up on the Patreon so people know where to get it. All right?
Oh, cool. I swear I wasn't calling for the plug, but I appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Hey, why not plug, right? All right. Yeah. All right. Gordon Stahl writes in, baking soda science. How does baking soda reaction work in honeycomb candy? So honeycomb candy, seafoam candy, foam candy. You guys know what we're talking about here? So you take a sugar syrup up to a real high temperature, like on the order of like 300 Fahrenheit. You stick baking soda into it. It foams up like real high. Yeah. They call it different things depending on where you are, but like it's big in Buffalo and it's delicious. And you can cut it in blocks and then dip it in chocolate. It's good. You like that stuff? It's kind of like not an Aero bar because that's chocolate, but that's done with a vacuum. But like, you ever done the vacuum chocolate? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, like the flavor really, whatever. It's fun. I like it. Weird texture. Do you remember You remember Alex Stupak used to do ice cream in a vacuum?
I don't think I tried that.
Did any of you guys ever have that, Stas? Did you have that from Stupak?
No.
So like what he used to do is Food Saver used to make these weird little Food Saver things that were like hard containers. And so, Stupak was using like a Carpigiani LB100 was his ice cream maker down there at WD. And he would do a draw directly into the Food Saver, and then he would stick it right in the vacuum machine and would suck a vacuum, and the ice cream, all the overrun would go. And so all of a sudden now, instead of it being like, 30% overrun is like 300% overrun. It's like super high. And then, when the air went back in, it wouldn't go back into the container. So it maintained its vacuum, and then you would throw it in the freezer and you would, hard set it at that. And I think he must have put some stabilizer in it because when it came out, other than Creamadan or whatever, when it came out, it ate almost like angel food cake, but it was ice cream and it would melt. It was the craziest.
That's wild.
It was the craziest texture.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. Anyway, so back to this. So, it's the baking soda with the honeycomb. I recently learned how to make my grandma's peanut brittle. It's aerated with baking soda, similar to the British honeycomb candy. Back on my first attempt, it came out too pale in color, so I assumed I didn't cook it hot enough or long enough, but it also did not inflate. That got me thinking about how these candies actually work. There's no acid in the recipe, and at 300 Fahrenheit, there's hardly any water left either. So is this some kind of direct thermal decomposition of the baking soda, and what gets left behind in terms of the sodium? From a thermal decomposition, I might guess sodium carbonate. That's also what I would guess. But that would be horrible. Interestingly, there also isn't any salt in the original recipe, but there's a whole lot of baking soda. So I could imagine that the sodium that's left might be critical for the flavor, but what form would it be in? Yeah, you know what? It's an interesting question. I've always taken that it is thermal decomposition because baking soda will start decomposing, once it gets over about 100 Celsius. It'll just start randomly decomposing. It'll lose a third of its weight. But you will get sodium carbonate over. I'm wondering whether it doesn't taste too much like it because it's, as you say, not really in solution, like somehow locked into the sugar. Maybe that's why it doesn't taste overly basic. But it's a really interesting question. I'm going to have to raise that with the next kind of candy theorist that I speak to. Mathman had another sodium carbonate related question. I recently tried, I think you just weren't hot enough. You weren't hot enough is the issue. I think that's got to be it because it needs to be hot enough to stay and to decompose and to air up. So get it hot enough and it should work. Hey, Cooking Issues team. I recently tried making the caramel syrup that I talked about on the podcast, 2-to-1 sugar to water with sodium carbonate, cooked in a pressure cooker for 75 minutes. When done, it had a nice caramel color and a heady, sweet pretzel smell. I neutralized the acid with citric acid instead of malic, like he recommended, since I was out of malic. While the pretzel smell went away, it didn't taste very caramelly. It had a metallic or strange aftertaste. No matter the level of neutralization, I assumed, was it the citric or is what's wrong? You know what, Mathman? I got to think about this. It's weird when I neutralize those things. They do, in fact, go lighter and lose some of their caramel. So I'm going to work on it more. I don't know the answer, but it's an excellent question. Why does it kind of uncaramel when you add the stuff? I didn't get a metallic taste in what I did, but I'll run another couple of tests, and you deserve more answers, so I will get it to you. Bruce Springsteen writing, going to Paris in April. Any recommendations? I like everything. Wasn't there some cheese shop you mentioned a few years back? Yeah, look, there's a million cheese shops. My favorite is Bartolome, if you like the kind of cheeses I like. Is it still cold? Oh, April's going to be a little bit too late for Vacheron. Sorry, Bruce Springsteen. You're going to miss the Vacheron Mondor, but you should go to Bartolome. On the Patreon, let's get a good list of cheese shops. I always go to Bartolome, but also you should go to the Beaufort place. Holy crap. They only do like Beaufort and other like from that region, beer from that region, but like the Beaufort that they have makes all other Beaufort look like idiots. And it's run by the commune for Beaufort. It took me 3 days of going there every day for them to finally be like, you're okay. Justin Sherrill writes in, nuts question. I make chocolate nut barks from nuts I dunk in simple syrup, then roast and process and scatter over chocolate. So far, so normal. I found the nuts lose their roasted color after a few weeks. The flavor might be reduced a bit, but it's hard to tell if that's just from visual association. Why do they lose color and how can I avoid it? I needed someone to tell me or send me a picture because I have not experienced this phenomenon. Have you experienced this at all? Like a roasted nut losing its color over time?
I don't think so.
This is not something I'm familiar with, Justin. So someone, if they're also familiar with it, send me it. Also, if there's any art history people out there, I'm looking for, I think it's an art forum, an article from 1990 to 1992 about the difficulty in performing critiques on art that's related to personal things like personal stories and personal, like your body, like illnesses you might have, because I want to see how cringy that is now if I read it 20 something years, 30 years later, because that's what we were used to reading art history back in the 90s. So if any of you have a line on that art, my Google has failed me, so I wasn't able to Google it. But if any of you know what I'm talking about and can find me that article, I'd appreciate it. Cooking Issues.